going on, guys, and welcome back. So we are here in our homeschool program about 1 month in, and today we're going to talk about how to find the correct answer in TOEFL reading questions. I'm really excited about this. This is a lot of work kind of coming together in one presentation, so I'm excited to share it and hope you find it helpful. The date today, I'm pretty sure, yeah, so May 4th, and so we are still in the middle of the COVID crisis, getting better in some places, still, I'm still inside, and probably most of you guys are as well. You turn on the news, lots of news is bad, and the news is out of your control, but what is in your control is your mind and how you spend your time. So we figured let's put it to good use and share some of our materials and work on things together. So thank you for coming. And one other thing I want to say is that, like I said, we're 1 month into these lessons, and there have been some students who have shown up to almost every single lesson and have come with questions and have been participating in the live chats throughout. And I just want to say thank you. And I want to shout out a few of these, few of you by name. And so Ganga and Kopop, Tech Lover, Life Fan, Yazdanali, Anmie, and Ivana. So people from Ukraine, Philippines, Azerbaijan, Turkey, India, and Afghanistan, and yeah, just everywhere. So guys, thank you so much. We have other students. Oh, there's one more, Americhuk from Russia as well. Thank you guys for being here and being a part of this. Okay, so let me get into my presentation here, and we're going to talk about how to find the correct answer. So let's see how to do that. Well, just really quickly, my name's Josh, been teaching TOEFL for a while. There's a lot of videos of me on this site. And our goals today is to compare the patterns of correct and incorrect choices and use that information to improve your TOEFL reading skills. You're going to remember 3 ways to make a correct choice and 6 ways to make an incorrect choice. So this is going to help you choose better answers by noticing patterns in correct and incorrect choices. All right. Our TOEFL emergency course, your TOEFL preparation in just 5 hours. Please visit us, tstprep.com. We try to help you get your TOEFL score as quickly and easily as possible. You can read a 600-page book or enroll in our emergency course. So definitely check that out, and we're here for you. People say nice things about us. Prakash, he says, I'm very happy today because I got the TOEFL score required for my admission on my first attempt. The only preparation I've done is TST Prep's emergency course for just 1 week. So probably it'll take you longer than just 1 week to prepare. But this is everybody's different. And so he didn't need as much time, and the emergency course is a great fit for him. Even if you have longer amount of time to prepare, this course is kind of like our greatest hits, so to speak, TOEFL greatest hits. So if you want to know the most important strategies, the most important points, check that out. All right. Talking about correct and incorrect choices. Now, why is this important? Let me start with ETS's own words. These are the people who make the TOEFL. And they say, note, the TOEFL IBT reading section measures the ability to recognize paraphrases. The ability to paraphrase is also important for the integrated tasks in the writing and speaking sections of the test. So paraphrasing is really, really important. Paraphrasing is saying the same thing a different way. So we're going to talk about some ways that the TOEFL paraphrases questions in the answer choices. The first way is that they use synonyms. You might remember that a synonym is a word that has the same meaning. So for example, if you say something is big, you might say large or enormous or massive. Those are synonyms of large or big. So really simple example of these are in vocabulary questions, right? So superficially is basically means something looks like something on the surface, but it's not reality. It's just what it looks like on the surface. So if I look at those choices, apparent is kind of like what looks like. Artificial's okay, but creatively and beneficial are very different. So it's either A or B, and probably A, apparent. So when you're answering vocabulary questions, you're not looking for synonyms exactly, but words with a similar meaning. So it's not exactly a synonym, but it has a similar meaning. But there are other examples that we're going to talk about that are not just in vocabulary questions. Another way to make a correct choice is to simplify the main idea. So a lot of times they will take information from more than one sentence and just kind of summarize it for the most part and simplify it. This is from one longer sentence. We're going to look at the blue part here that I'll start reading the paragraph. It says, this behavior is still not necessarily altruism, as the giving behavior of the actor is based on the expectation that it will be the receiver of the behavior in the future, termed reciprocal altruism. Okay, so that's that. C, reciprocal altruism cannot really be considered altruism. So that's kind of like a summary, taking the main idea of this sentence and making it simple. So that's another way to make a correct answer. They have to paraphrase. So as you can see, these are all paraphrases. So another way to make a choice correct is to rewrite the sentence with the main idea intact. And so here, we talked about this example already, but you can also look at A, some species of monkeys behave altruistically to others they are not related to. And an example of this has been observed in many monkey species where a monkey will present its back to an unrelated monkey to have that individual pick parasites from its fur. So they behave altruistically that they're not related to. This is kind of like summarizing the main idea. And let me look at a different example here. Thus, there is reciprocity in the behavior. Both benefit from the interaction. When monkeys practice reciprocal altruism, both participants gain. So here you have a synonym. Instead of benefit, you have gain, right? And instead of having the information in two sentences, they can bring it together into one. So keeping the main idea intact here. So basically, they use some synonyms, change the grammar, or summarize to make a correct choice. Let's look at another example here. And you can see that green part is where they take a lot of information and kind of summarize it. You can see from this yellow part, which I'll read, differentiated meteorites come from larger objects which were made of molten originally. And then I'll read the paragraph. The differentiated meteorites are fragments of larger parent bodies that were molten before they broke up. So you see how just changing the grammar slightly come from our fragments of changing the vocabulary around a little bit. This one is kind of an easier example, but you can see how they just change the wording. So you can either use synonyms to change the wording, you can change the grammar of the sentence, changing the way the words are ordered, or you could take a couple sentences and summarize it. That's basically how you make a correct choice. And that's why ETS says that the TOEFL reading measures your ability to recognize paraphrases. You don't have to know anything about this topic to get the question correct. It might help a little bit. I don't know anything about astronomy. I don't know about meteorites that much, so this is a little difficult for me. And I'm sure it's difficult for you if you don't know about it. But all the information is there, so I have to focus on the language, on the information to answer the question. Okay. So again, those are the three ways to make a correct choice, and they sometimes use a combination of all three. So don't try to, I wouldn't try to figure out which specific one it is. You could do that, but really use synonyms, simplify the main idea, rewrite the sentence with the main idea intact. Those are the different ways that they make a correct choice. It's pretty simple. Keep in mind that for recognizing correct and incorrect choices, this is most useful for factual information, negative factual information, and sentence simplification. There's other question types that this is not as useful for example, maybe inference questions, but for these three types, they're really, really helpful. Just want to say that out there. And keep in mind that the majority of your learning will come through practice. I'm going to teach you now, I'm going to move on to the incorrect choices, but practice this activity. Visit our site, tstprep.com. We have some practice materials for reading and listening, and free questions for speaking and writing as well. So check it out and use these strategies and see what works, see what doesn't, and experiment with them. Really, you're going to grow and you're going to learn more through you actually doing this stuff. All right, incorrect choices. So how do you make an incorrect choice? Well, the first thing is part or all of the information is incorrect. So which of the following is true? So I'm going to pick on the highlighted parts here. And so social insects such as worker bees have no ability to reproduce. B says worker bees are social insects that guard the colony and produce offspring. No ability to reproduce, produce offspring, that's just simply false. It's not true, right? And so that's the first way to make a question wrong. Part of the information is incorrect. They're social insects, that's true, but they don't produce offspring, so B is wrong. C, meerkats work in groups to defend and warn their community against intruders. It says meerkats keep a member of the group standing guard. We have a member and then work in groups. This is incorrect. D, wild dogs bringing meat back from a hunt is a well understood altruistic behavior. Although on the surface these behaviors appear to be altruistic, it may not be so simple. So maybe it's not so simple. Maybe they're not altruistic. So D is just simply not correct. Pretty simple way to make an incorrect choice. Another way is that part or all the information is never mentioned. So let's see here. By looking at the composition of differentiated meteorites, that's choice A. The first sentence says primitive meteorites. They never mention differentiated meteorites in this paragraph. It's not correct. Also, remember, you want to pay attention to the paragraph. All the questions are connected to a paragraph, except the summary and fill in the table questions. So pay careful attention to a paragraph. Try not to bring too much information from other paragraphs. I just said paragraphs a lot. Paragraph, paragraph, paragraph. B, from looking at the images of primitive meteorites when they are attached to parent asteroids, we can look at the spectrum of sunlight reflected from asteroids and compare their composition. So they never say that they look at the images from primitive meteorites, even though they do compare. They don't say they look at the images, so it's not mentioned, so we can't say that B is correct. So this is an example of making an incorrect choice that's not mentioned. I should note here, you'll notice patterns and avoid wrong answers by recognizing how correct and incorrect choices are made. So this is designed to help you see patterns so you can easily spot a correct or incorrect choice. So I want you to notice these patterns. I think they're going to be really helpful for you. And again, practice. This is all about practice. Practice this activity. Try to do it multiple times and see how it works for you. Another way to make incorrect choices is to mix details. So here, if you look at the part highlighted in yellow, C, nuts and beans make up an essential part of the human diet. The first sentence says seed plants are the foundation of human diet, so that's an essential part. But beans and nuts supply protein, so this is mixing those two pieces of information. Or D, humans get protein from foods like oil and olives. Fats are derived from crushed seeds, as in the case of peanuts and canola oils or fruits such as olives. So it's mixing that idea of protein. Protein is from the nuts and beans, not from oils and olives. Mixes details. The wrong modifier. This is a really popular way to make a wrong choice because it's so easy to make a wrong choice this way. All you have to do is change one tiny word. You change one tiny word, the modifier completely changes the meaning of the sentence. Look at here. A, most meteorites fall to Earth's surface after they are vaporized. Here it says some meteorites do end up landing on Earth's surface. All they did was change the modifier. That's it, and it's wrong. Another example, meteorites are often classified, and here it says there are only 2 classes. So often classified does not mean always. Only means 100%. So B cannot be correct. One tiny word completely changes the meaning. I don't know if I mentioned it in this presentation or not, but there is some extreme adjectives or modifiers like all, always, never, only. They're too strong. It's 100% or 0%. Those choices are usually incorrect. Here's another example. This is not really a modifier, this is more of a description, but during the 15th century, during the 1500s. 15th century is actually the 1400s. So it's something to keep in mind for time. You should know a couple of those. Here's a pro tip. Changing the modifier is an easy and popular way to make an incorrect choice. So I mentioned that before, right? Easy to make a wrong choice with that. Another way to make an incorrect choice is that there's an opinion in there. This is not a popular way to make an incorrect choice, but it might come up once in a while. So for example here, Henry David Thoreau was Emerson's closest friend. So any of these like EST type of answer choices, closest, best, tallest, biggest, again, these are really, they're the number one, 100%. So we usually don't use that type of language in academic texts and academic answers. So be careful when you see those kind of phrases like biggest, best, and that kind of thing. Another example here, she was the most famous transcendentalist. Again, we don't usually say most famous. We probably say famous or one of the most famous. We probably don't say most famous. It's hard to, identify that. So it's not used very often in academic writing. So avoid opinions. Last time the answer choice last way to make an incorrect choice is the answer choice is incomplete. And this is pretty common actually for a different type of question called sentence simplification. And this is actually, I usually actually call it paraphrasing questions. But sentence simplification questions, they just leave out some important information. So for example, A is incorrect because it says the amino acids and organic molecules found in the Murchison, I guess is how you say it, Murchison meteorite occur naturally. So the first part of that sentence actually says this. These naturally occurring amino acids and other complex organic molecules in Murchison. So I need the rest of this. Formed without the benefit of the sheltering environment of planet Earth show that a great deal of interesting chemistry must have taken place when the solar system was forming. So I need more information. So these amino acids and organic molecules in the meteorite that occur naturally, what do? Well, they show a great deal of interesting chemistry, that of when the solar system was forming. So I need that information. So it's missing some important information here. So let's look at another example here from a paraphrase question. And I'll read the sentence first, actually, from paragraph 5. What is clear, though, is that heritable behaviors that improve the chances of passing on one's genes or a portion of one's genes are favored by natural selection and will be retained in future generations as long as those behaviors convey a fitness advantage. So the correct answer is B. Actions that preserve one's genes and remain advantageous will continue in future generations. So that's keeping all the important information and paraphrasing it. C and D leave out one of those pieces of information. C only says natural selection is marked by animals who act in ways that increase the chance of passing on their genes. They don't talk about it being retained in the future. D, behaviors that are advantageous to one generation will be passed on to the next, but they miss out the information about improving the chances of being favored by natural selection there. Okay, so that's why this is another way to make an incorrect choice is to leave out important information. So again, these patterns may not apply. They may apply and may not apply to vocabulary, inference, rhetorical purpose, insert text, reference, browse summary, and fill in the table questions. So these strategies are not always applicable to these other question types. This is about 50% of the questions you'll see are detail, negative detail, or sentence simplification. I'm sorry, I say detail, negative detail. I should say the ETS is factual information, negative factual information, and sentence simplification. That'll probably be about 50% of the questions you're asked. They're more popular. You'll have at least one sentence simplification and at least one negative factual information per passage, and at least two factual information, but probably three per passage. So you have about 40-50% are these question types. Again, correct choices: use synonyms, simplify the main idea, and rewrite the sentence with the main idea intact. And remember, this is actually according to ETS that it's so important to know how to paraphrase in order to do well in the TOEFL reading section. And again, visit tstprep.com to get your TOEFL score as quickly and easily as possible. You could read a 600-page TOEFL book or check out our TOEFL emergency course, everything you need in 5 hours of videos. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I hope you found it helpful. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video, guys.